Welcome, tennis fans, to a brand new season of Changeover Chat in the Tennis One app. I'm your host, Randy Master. This season, we've got a treat in store for you. Our entire 2021 slate is going to be presented by our friends at Sportmaster Sports Surfaces. Not only is Sportmaster the official surface of the City Open, Truist Atlanta Open, Rogers Cup, but they also surface courts all over the world. More importantly, here in the United States, you can call Sportmaster and they will put you in touch with any installer across the country, whether you want to build high school courts, college courts, municipality courts. You want to put a court in your backyard, Sportmaster is going to build it for you. So we have an incredible slate in store for you. 2021, 50 guests. You may remember last year we had guests such as Chris McKendry, Stacey Allister, Brad Gilbert, Katrina Adams. The list goes on and on and on. We have 50 episodes in store for next year. Our first guest is CourtSense founder Gordon Uehling. Stay tuned for Gordon, and this show, the entire season, will be presented by Sportmaster Sports Surfaces. Welcome, fans, to the 41st episode of Changeover Chat, presented by Sportmaster Sports Services. I'm your host, Randy Master. Today's guest is a former ATP world-ranked player in both singles and doubles. While on tour, he trained with some of the world's top players, including Americans Pete Sampras, Jim Courier, and Todd Martin. As a coach, he has worked with well-known players such as Novak Djokovic, Christina McHale, and Dmitry Tursunov. In 2013, he was honored by the USOC and USTA for his outstanding contributions using sports science in tennis. He is the owner and managing director of CourtSense Tennis Training Center. Please welcome Gordon Uehling.
Hey, Randy, thanks for having me on.
No problem at all, and it's good to catch up. I haven't seen you in a while, Gordon, but it's good to see you.
Absolutely.
So let's, I want to go back. I want to go to your childhood. I know you were an athlete growing up. You played multiple sports. Tell me about what sports those were and how important playing multiple sports were to your growth as an athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing basically hockey, tennis, and skiing. Well, those are three sports that were dear to my heart and our family. But there were never any tennis programs in our area that were really worth spending a lot of time with that we knew about. And there was a great hockey program in our area, so hockey was more of my focus as a junior. But I always had a passion for the game of tennis and wanted to pursue it ultimately as my life's work, you know, as a player, and then also to work with kids and people in general in the game.
Yeah. So you played college tennis. You played on the tour for a little bit. And in 2002, you start your company, CourtSense. And I remember talking to you about this years and years ago. And I think you saw a void in the tennis instructional and coaching community that you thought you could fill. And what was the genesis of CourtSense?
Yeah, I mean, to go back for a second, when I played on the tour, I played for 9 years, and I was a journeyman of journeymen because I didn't play junior tennis really, and it took me 3 years to get a world ranking. I got to 800 in the world, and for me, winning a round in a challenger main draw was like winning Wimbledon. I mean, it was an incredible achievement for where I started from. And my goal was to go out there and play all those years to really get my master's and PhD in the game. So I was coming from the perspective as a player more that I wanted to help people with their tennis in the future and wanted to create a program that was extraordinary. And I was lucky enough to be amongst people like Dr. Jim Lair and Jose Higueras. And, you know, all these different influences really shaped what I wanted to create ultimately, and create a team and find people that were exceptional in different areas of sports science, exceptional in coaching and business and development. So it was really it was a goal to create something that I'd never seen all the years that I played on the tour. So I played in 30 different countries. I studied all the programs in France and Australia, China. I was all over the place with my notepad, audio. You know, I had voice memos of talking to directors, and would take notes, say, wow, love what they're doing here. They could do this better. And then all the different areas, ultimately creating something that I thought was something that I ultimately wish I had as a kid.
Yeah. So you talked about that team. I was looking on your website this morning. That's quite a team. I think you have about 24 people
Yeah.
involved, whether they're pros or fitness trainers or in administrative positions. I know Jeff Grant is your
Yep.
director of tennis, who is
We
a
used to
great
battle
player.
on the tour. He was incredible, and I used to look up to him for his work ethic. And yeah, one of the things I had the advantage of is finding cherry picking people around the world that I came across and would say, hey, do you want to be part of something bigger than you and me? And
Yeah.
Jeff was all in, and he's been with us for years, and he's incredible. And then there's guys like Ogi Nikolovsky.
Yeah.
He was my roommate in college. He was Davis Cup captain for Macedonia. He was an All-American at Rollins, where we both played tennis. We had a Carlos Cano who started court sets with me. He was head of player and coaching development for the country of Mexico and worked with Jose Higueras. Jose started with us in 2002 for the first 4 years and shaping what our philosophy and methodology was. And I've just had so many great influences, and it's something that it keeps evolving. And one of the things I always loved the concept of is the art of coaching plus sports science equaling magic. And I found that a lot of sports scientists kind of had their own way of doing things, but they didn't really get the player. And then a lot of the coaches that were magical with players didn't know how to communicate to many coaches what their secret sauce was. So,
Right.
it's putting all that together has been really satisfying.
Yeah. So a player and their parent, they walk into one of your clubs to talk
Mhm.
about court sense, and they've been to other clubs in the area and they've talked to other coaches in the area. What is that with you and your team? What is that pitch, quote unquote pitch, like to a parent? And what really attracts them to court sense when you talk to them?
Well, one thing I'd say is we're a boutique, right? So,
Yeah.
one of our clubs is 7 courts. I bought it in 2010. It's Pagoda Rack Club. Right away, I put in 50 tournaments a year. So in our area, we didn't have a lot of USTA tournaments, and now we're starting to do UTR tournaments as well. And so that's for kids that are like 11 and up that are looking to play college tennis. And then we have Tenafly Rack Club. It's 8 indoor courts, and that's our high performance for 10 and under. And we're really into developing the player, and really understanding that the most important part of the game is your mind, second is your feet, and third are your hands. And then we kind of teach the opposite direction. We talk about transferring energy, grips, fundamentals, really creating the right fundamentals for a player to then eventually focus more on the feet, and then what your decision making should be and patterns of play and playing the game. But
Yeah.
it's evolved. Our program has evolved tremendously from all kinds of different influences, and it's so that the pitch is really we like to get as objective as we can. We use a lot of the senses. That's one of the reasons I called it court sense. I didn't want it to be about me, so as court sense is a generic name. And I grew up with dyslexia, so that was another thing that I think gave me an advantage as a leader in this. I kind of pretended if I were dyslexic in sport, which I wasn't, I was very gifted in sport and art, but in school things were more challenging. I said, what would I want as a progression to really learn the game inside and out with all the fundamentals where everything is laid out in front of me? So I think parents really uh, value the progressions that we create, and also the objectivity through using video and all kinds of different technologies that we can see how their movement is. We could see, predict injury. We even do brain speed to see, how their brain is functioning when they're doing
Yeah.
tasks. So it's a fascinating journey, and I've chosen people that choose people, right? Because it's a big org chart in our staff that are here for the right reasons. They really want to make a difference for the game, and their goal is to do what's best for the player, and it's really a team effort.
Yeah, so I've been out to your club, I think once back when I was at Tennis Channel. I think it was Tenafly, and
Hmm.
you were showing me around, and we walked into a room, and I can still remember it. It looked like Mission Control. I felt like I was, I felt like I was at NASA, and all the courts were on video, and it was impressive, and it showed that you were kind of one of these early adopters um, in using sports science and technology in your teaching methods. Um, I know that PlaySite has been a big part of
It
what you do
has.
know that you're an investor in the company, and you've seen it through for a while and watched him grow. Tell me a little bit about how PlaySight has really positively affected what you do as a
Well, it's
coach.
funny. If I back up before PlaySight, I used Dartfish quite a bit with Warren Pretorius, and we would have. I actually put in all these cameras around the whole court because I want to compare apples to apples. Somebody starting with us, and then maybe 6 weeks later in the same camera angle. And I had these. I don't know if you remember, but in the back of the court, I had these switchers to go to each camera, and it
Yeah.
would be Dartfish. And then eventually PlaySight came around, and I took a meeting. Somebody told me about it. Oh, yeah, right. And then I had this meeting. It's supposed to be a 20-minute meeting. I was there for 4 hours with Yuval, who's an executive
Oh
at
yeah.
PlaySight.
Yeah.
And it just blew me away what they were accomplishing and the efficiency of seeing video, getting data. And it's something that, yeah, we put the world's first PlaySight facility in at Bogota Racket Club. I think it's been about 6, 7 years now. And, to see yourself visually, there's nothing better, right?
Yeah.
So I think to see yourself and then to see other pros and to compare yourself to them is also a great feature that players should have access to.
Yeah. Well, talk about a player that you probably don't want to compare yourself to is Novak Djokovic. It's no secret that you and Novak are friends, and I've always been an admirer. Everybody is an admirer of what he's done on the tennis court throughout his career. As you know, Gordon, he took some flack this summer over some things that some of them he apologized for with COVID. The thing at the U.S. Open, the biggest fluke incident that could have happened.
And
You
when you
know,
say you
no,
wouldn't want to compare yourself, I think people would want to compare themselves, right? To try to look like him on a tennis court would be unbelievable,
right,
obviously.
right. I meant comparatively
Yeah, yeah,
speaking.
sure.
I know that you're close with Novak. Can you tell us what the Novak Djokovic that you know is as a man, as a friend, obviously as a player, a part of Novak that a lot of people don't see by just
You know what?
watching him
I
play?
could go on and on about Novak. I mean, he has incredible character. He's a kind human being. I mean, he deeply cares about people to the point where, sometimes we have to remind him, no, like, let's get focused here because he wants to sign that extra autograph. We go to dinner, out to dinner, wherever we go. He always goes to the back kitchen and speaks to everybody, thanking them, like, thank you for that meal. I really appreciate it. He's big into energy, big into, just doing the right thing by people. Now, he's also an incredible competitor. So within himself, he's I think sometimes exploring within himself, how to balance his incredible desire and burning flame to compete and to be successful with the kind human being that will hold a baby and just stare at it and say what an incredible human being this is and this child or whatever it might be. I mean, he's an incredible dad. I've known him since he was 15 years old. It's funny. I worked with a player who played at Georgia, played doubles with John Isner, Luis Flores, and he beat him when he was 16 and Novak was 15 in Italy. And I was traveling with him. And I remember going to Novak and his English, he had broken English. I said, keep your head up because the player I worked with beat him 3-2. And I said, keep your head up, buddy, because you have an incredible game. It was so obvious how talented he was. And then 6 months later, he lost to my player 7-6 in the third at Eddie Herr, and then 6 months later he wins a challenger, and then off you go. And
Yeah.
then we reconnected when he was 20, and he's been just a dear friend, somebody that behind the scenes I give him my heart. Any input I could give him in terms of technology, awareness, life, it's something that we just have a very special relationship.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And he and others that you have grown in the business with, a lot of people like Ogie that you started your clubs with, and everyone that's been a big part of your growth in the sport of tennis. I know that you mentioned a new project that you're working on, Got a Tennis.
Yep.
And
Yep.
when we spoke about it, it almost seemed like an autobiography of your life's work in a different platform. But
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about Got a Tennis?
Yeah, God is something that we're beta testing right now. We have two facets. We have an analytics software and we have a platform. And, I started with a guy named Brett Hobden. To give you a little background on Brett, he's somebody that maybe not many people know the name, but they should. And Tommy Haas introduced me to him about 4 or 5 years ago. And Tommy's a dear friend, and he knew what I was trying to accomplish with CourtSense and trying to create an online platform that could help people beyond our local area and systematizing everything. And he also knew what Brett was doing, trying to create something online. And when we met each other, it was just like boom. I mean, it was this moment that we both said it's a no-brainer for us to collaborate. And what he really focused on is more the analytics and the tactics of the game. And what we focused on more is the development of the game. And that's
Right.
where the two are really going hand in hand. And what we started with is an analytics software that's on an iPad. And our first client is Novak Djokovic. So it's funny how things come around. And Novak, he thinks of me as a dear friend, but somebody that also has a lot of knowledge in tennis. But I told him and his team, you should really look into the software. And he was, okay, I'll look at it. And within 30 minutes, he was blown away. And the insights we're giving him is really exciting for more of the communication of his team and to really objectively see things that many others haven't really looked to show on analytics. It's kind of like going from a IBM stats or maybe like a black and white television, to be honest. And then you go to some others out there that are great. Craig O'Shaughnessy is a good friend, and I introduced him to Novak originally. And you have Golden Analytics, and there's some incredible insights they give. But I think, and I'm biased, but what we've done is kind of gone to IMAX with 3D and this huge screen and maybe even some smell. It's like, what's going on? Your senses are
Right.
getting really stimulated in a
Right.
way, and the objectivity. It's things are getting more and more like Moneyball out there, and we can really predict things. We can give some insights based on tactical situations. Of how to respond and what things are working, what aren't, and then with opponents as well. So
Yeah.
that's one
Well,
part of data.
yeah.
And then we have another part where it's going to be more for the masses, but it'll be for insights for parents, coaches, juniors, pros, and we'll have a whole library of different types of shots. And we'll have insights from, Dr. Lair, Dr. Knodel in motor learning, Dr. Lair in sports psychology. We have Tommy Haas is an ambassador. And so it's an exciting project. It's something that I've really wanted to level the playing field where people in India, Africa, Serbia, wherever they are, they get incredible knowledge from masters. So it's not like the Gordon show or the Brett Hobden show. It's a collection of many great minds, and having it be in a place where you can get access to it very quickly in a way that's proprietary and will be coming out in 6 months. So perhaps we do another one of these calls with Brett on, and we'll be able to give you even more insight.
Yeah, no, I would love to. I mean, first of all, that's fascinating, and I think it speaks to how much your career has been, almost all of your career has been geared toward really growing the sport of tennis, not people that just said, oh, he or she grows the game of tennis. I mean, Gordon, you really do, and really one of the first adopters of sports science and technology in sport. Um, we spoke a little bit about Novak and what he's like off the court. He's about to go on the court in Melbourne, God
Yeah,
willing, everything
yeah,
is
yeah.
goes as planned over there. Can you give us some predictions as we go into Melbourne? Maybe your men's winner, your women's winner, and then maybe a dark horse on both sides that we might not see coming.
Well, obviously, I'm biased about Novak, and I know his preparation is as good as ever, and he's got even extra time. But there's a lot of young guns coming up too, so that makes it interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I know the insights we're giving him. I'd like to think is going to give him even more motivation. Like I mentioned, the analytics we have is kind of like uh, a profit loss statement every day of how he's doing, and he
yeah.
can really hone in on the details. So my prediction is Novak winning the Australian Open again. On the women's side, I think Kenin is it'll be interesting to see if she can win her second Australian Open. Serena, it'll be interesting to see where she's at. She's getting older, but she's a fierce competitor, and I have friends that know her well, and she's training hard and looking good. So who knows? It'll be a fun time to watch some tennis. Hopefully, like you said, it all comes about. That COVID doesn't slow things down.
Oh yeah. Well, the last thing I wanted to ask, and I know that you're a big hockey fan. I am too. I got into the game because my sons play the game. I didn't play a whole lot of hockey growing up in Richmond, Virginia. I know it's been part of your life. The NHL season started last night.
Yeah.
The Ranger, I'm talking about the New York Rangers. I've got a banner in the background. See the Rangers.
You know,
But who's your team? And
Rangers are my team, and I actually was with Lundqvist. Was hitting a lot of tennis balls with him until just before he had
yeah,
his heart situation, which is, I felt terrible, but hopefully
yeah,
he'll be totally fine. But Rangers have always been my team. To be honest, I'm so absorbed with everything I'm doing in tennis and my own family that I'm a little guilty of not keeping up as much as I could with
right.
with the Rangers. But yeah, I've always been a big Ranger fan with Messier and Mike Richter
Oh
and
yeah.
that was more the generation that I really was following quite a bit.
Well, we'll put this last clip so I can show it to my son. Gordon, will the Rangers win the Stanley Cup this year?
The Rangers will win the Stanley Cup in 2021. Come on, baby. Big Blue.
Yes. All right, Gordon. Thanks so much for your time. This has been great,
Yeah,
and let's do it again sometime.
sounds good. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.